Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here today to talk about preserving zucchini and the various ways you can put it up to last you for the rest of the year so that you don't have to eat it in everything and on everything and with everything while it's coming in fresh. So let's talk about this, and at least what I'm doing this year. So I usually do a video like this every year because every year I find new ways to use zucchini. The first thing I'm going to do though, since I'm not going to talk about all the uses of zucchini, I'm going to link you back to the video I did last year on the many uses for zucchini. Today's going to be more about preserving it for long term and the various ways you can go about that. Now, and today I'm going to be trying something I have not done yet, and that is going to be pressure canning. I was always under the assumption for a long time that you could not pressure can zucchini without it absolutely turning to mush. And then I found out some of my subscribers shared with me that they have pressure can theirs before. And then I found a link today, just kind of looking real quick, with directions on how to pressure can. Mostly what I was looking for were the times. Now, in this particular link, it talked about pre-cooking the zucchini a little bit, just like you would when you're canning zucchini in the water bath method, where you're using the pineapple juice and lemon juice and sugar, and then you can water bath can it that way. Well, you do pre-cook it first, and for that, I see it as you're really trying to cook out some of the excess liquid out of the zucchini while letting the fruit juices that you're using, because I did a video last year on making pineapple zucchini and black cherry zucchini, because there's other flavors you could do. It doesn't just have to be pineapple, and they're both really good, by the way, and I'll link to that video down below so you can see how I did that. But anyway, if you're cooking the zucchini a little bit first, you're cooking out some of the excess water in the zucchini as well as allowing the juices to get really permeated in there before you can it. But since I'm not going to be flavoring it other than adding a little bit of salt, I'm going to do what I normally do, and I'm going to try doing a batch of just raw pack, because I typically, when I can anything, whether it be meat, vegetables, fruit, I raw pack it all. I do have one of the second to largest all-American canner where you can stack your jars, but I don't want to do that much zucchini at a time. And this will be the first time finally utilizing this real small one. This, I don't know if it's the smallest, but it is one of the smallest all-American canners you can get that we picked up at a garage sale and paid only 10 bucks for. And I don't think it's ever even been used. In fact, it's been sitting in the shop. It needs to be cleaned off. So I can put 4-pint jars in there, which is perfect because that's going to give me enough to try it, see what I think, especially since I don't want that much canned, just plain zucchini. And I also want to see how well it's going to do raw pack, so I don't want to do a whole bunch and find out the raw pack is just there, and then maybe next time try cooking it a little bit. So I'll be giving you an update on that. So what I'm doing right now is you can see the sizes I'm using here. I'm just dicing it up. And then I'm going to be putting just a little bit of salt in each jar and then topping it off with room temperature water. The water that we use for eating, cooking, baking, whatever, is always room temperature because it's our own collected rainwater that we then filter. So I do that, and then I put it in a canner like that, and the water in the canner is going to be about the same temperature, whatever I put in there, so that it all heats up together and I don't have to worry about cracking my jars. I'll go ahead and put a little update and text and photo here on how this turns out, since I'm going to be doing that later today. I'll also talk about it in a this and that video down the road to let you know what I think about it in this form, because I will open one of the jars right away so I can try it and then decide whether or not I'd like to do more that way. This video, by the way, isn't an instructional video about canning. I do have a basic canning 101 video that I did, I think, last year that I'll also link in the description box down below. And by the way, don't forget to click on either show more right down here below the channel name in all caps, or if you're on a smart device, it'll be over here on this side. It's either going to say more, or it's going to have an arrow or a triangle that you just touch and to open that description box to find the links I'll be putting in there. So anyway, I'll finish topping that off, and then I have 3 more jars I'm going to fill up, and then finally getting to try the smaller all-American canner. So don't forget, looking at those garage sales if you're looking for canners, especially pressure canners. Garage sales, Facebook Market, anything secondhand. Some people have secondhand stores by them. They can probably find this kind of stuff. Be looking for that kind of stuff there if you're still getting into it and you don't want to spend an arm and a leg. So anyway, that's going to be the first time I try it that way. But last year I did can the zucchini, like I mentioned earlier, with the pineapple juice and the black cherry juice, and that you can definitely do water bath because you got the sugar, you got the acid in there because you're using the lemon juice, and so you can water bath that. It's a pretty simple process, and it is fun. It's tasty. So that's something you'd use for, you know, just kind of eating right out of the jar. Jackson loves it. I liked really adding it to cottage cheese and eating it like you would pineapple or pears or peaches with cottage cheese. I did try making some creamsicles with it, like I normally would, like make a pina colada creamsicle, and I tried the pineapple zucchini and that. Didn't really care for it. The fresh, real pineapple is so much better for that. But as far as adding to the cottage cheese and stuff, I thought it was great. And then the most common thing I do with most of my zucchini is dehydrate it up, and there's a couple of reasons why. And one is that I can use this in so many things throughout the whole year. So I just dice it up a little smaller. As you can see in this photo right here, you'll see a couple of things going on there. You'll see a quart-sized jar. Now before when I do that with it fresh, I was freezing it like that and using it out of the freezer that way because I was still thinking canning it wouldn't be a good idea. And so you can do it. You can chop it up and freeze it. You can grate it and freeze it. You can cut it real small like this and freeze it however you want to. But dehydrating it will make it take up far less room in food storage. So I always forget how many zucchinis I can put in here. I think 4 good sized zucchinis and when I'm talking good size, I'm talking about your larger average, kind of like this. I think it's 4 that you can fit in here, but it might be more. I'm always forgetting the number. I know in some of my previous videos I do have a more accurate number, but I mean, just look at the size of this one, and this one isn't huge. It's more your kind of little bit larger than average size. And think of fitting 4 of those. I know it's a minimum of 4 in a quart-sized jar. So this is going to take up a lot less room in food storage when you dehydrate it up, and it will last for years and years. Just vacuum seal it in there to keep it as fresh as possible. And the great thing is I can add it to various types of sauces. Like I put it a lot in my Italian sauces that I might use for pizza, spaghetti, ravioli, lasagna, and so on. You can add it to soups. You can add it to casseroles, or gravies, anything where it's already in a liquid form that you just add it in there with the rest of the stuff as you're cooking it, and it'll cook right up and it will rehydrate. But the important thing to understand about zucchini is that it doesn't rehydrate quite as well as like maybe mushrooms do. It'll never get back to the full size or the same texture. So for me, and I did try doing this separately where I just set some aside. Let's say if I was going to, because I do sometimes like zucchini as a side dish, a side vegetable. So I thought I'd try it with the dehydrated, and it was okay. You know, you got to cook it, and it does get soft enough, but it definitely still was not my favorite way. And we ate it. It was okay, and it would work in a pinch. But typically this is going to be something I'll save for adding into dishes. And even for a stir fry, it's not quite so bad. Simmer it in some hot water first and then add it into your stir fries. That could be an option too. I think I've done that as well. And that's not so bad, but to have it as a side dish like that, I didn't care for, but you can try it and see what you think. So that would be my purpose of canning like this. So 2 reasons I want some canned up is so I can just have it as a side vegetable. So sometimes we'll have the home canned green beans from my garden. Sometimes it'll be home canned carrots. Sometimes it could be something like this. But also to use in bakes like I'd like to do, where I'm going to throw in carrots, potatoes, maybe some leftover beef roast, and throw it all in a pot and just bake it with some seasonings and stuff. Very much similar to the way, I have an old video I did about that, but I also had one year that I did more recently that was a similar idea using kielbasa and cabbage, and you could consider throwing your zucchini in there. You just kind of throw everything in a pan and bake it until everything's cooked through with your seasonings, maybe some of your bone broth or your vegetable broth if you're vegan. Obviously, you wouldn't use the meat if you're vegan. So yeah, that's why I want some canned up, so I can use it that way, since I didn't care for it in the dehydrated form as a side dish. But then you also have the option too of then taking the dehydrated zucchini and powdering it up, and then it has a lot more uses because it's all powdered up. It's going to blend well with anything, and because it has such a mild flavor, you can add it to all kinds of breads. I wouldn't use it in place of like grated zucchini in a zucchini bread. For that, I would either use the zucchini fresh, Or I would grate the zucchini up and freeze it, or grate the zucchini up and dehydrate it. I haven't tried it that way, but I think the grated zucchini would probably rehydrate better, especially when being used. You'd want to rehydrate it first or reconstitute and then use it in your zucchini bread. But I find frozen works really good. You just have to drain a lot of the water out when you go to use it. But anyway, as a powder, you can add it to any kind of bread. You can add it to homemade pancakes, muffins, your yeast breads. I've done this many times. I've made hamburger buns even, adding the zucchini powder just to get more of the nutrition from the zucchini into the bread. And it's just a very small flour replacement. I don't know that it would work well as a full flour replacement in most things, especially yeast breads, but you might be able to do that with pancakes. I haven't tried it, but you definitely could mix it in if you're gluten-free with your different gluten-free flours for something like that. And for pancakes and muffins, you can get away with doing that kind of stuff and not worrying about it so much. Yeast breads are trickier. So anyway, you can add your zucchini powder to smoothies, anything. You can use it in just about anything. And so I do like having some powdered up and ready to go. When it comes to powdered zucchini, this is one of the things I do definitely like to keep vacuum sealed between uses, so it doesn't clump. It's one of those that can collect moisture even with a airtight lid. So then I mentioned the other ways of freezing. You can freeze it diced up, small or large. You can freeze it in the form of a grated, so you can use it for zucchini bread. But you can also dehydrate in all different types, so you don't have to dice it. So if you like zucchini noodles, or what some people call zoodles, you can then make your zucchini noodles, whether you're using a spiralizer or you're just using a potato peeler, vegetable peeler. You can just keep peeling your zucchini, and I've done that before it tends to make whiter noodles. And you can use it up fresh, but you can also dehydrate them like that and then store them in jars so you can have some of your zoodles throughout the year. I've tried them both ways. Now those, because they're so thinly sliced, those do reconstitute better than the diced zucchini like this does. But I still liked it better fresh than I did dehydrated and then cooked up as a noodle. So, but I just recommend trying it. Give it a try. But then there's also another thing with dehydrating is you can make zucchini chips. In that case, you're going to slice them as thin as you can, lay them on your dehydrator trays, brush a little bit of oil over them. I recommend unrefined coconut oil, but it can be olive oil, it can be grapeseed oil, it can be avocado oil, and then very lightly put on some seasoned salt. I have a recipe for homemade seasoned salt I'll put down below, but very lightly. You got to remember, because when it dehydrates, it's going to get a lot smaller, so that's really going to condense the salt on there. And whatever seasonings you want to add to it to make a nice crispy chip out of it, so it's a healthy form of a chip that you can snack on. And I've done that before, and it is pretty good. And that is something you can, of course, then vacuum seal into your jars and store for long term, and just pull out when you need it throughout the year. And I'm not going to go through the whole vacuum sealing thing here because I have lots of videos about vacuum sealing. I'll link to one of those down below. And then some other ways that you can preserve it would be using it in things that you're going to can. So such as years ago, and I haven't made it in years because we don't eat relish that much, but several years ago I made some homemade green tomato zucchini relish and then canned it up. And I have a video on that, but it is excellent. It is an excellent relish. It tastes so much better than the store-bought relish you buy. But yes, you can use zucchini and your green tomatoes that you have, all those that you're trying to use up because, you know, the season's over. They're not ripening fast enough. You use those green tomatoes and combined with the zucchini and your other spices, it makes a great relish for using on whatever you like to use relish on, hot dogs, hamburgers, so on and so forth. And I mentioned the pineapple zucchini, black cherry zucchini. I'm thinking this year I'm definitely going to do the pineapple zucchini, but I'm thinking about trying another fruit juice. The black cherry was good. I liked the pineapple better, but I have an organic one I get from, I think it's called Simple Truth brand. It's either Simply Truth or Simple Truth. I always forget it, but I get it from Vitacost. And it's an organic juice that I think has mango and it has passion fruit in it. It's a blend of some tropical juices and it's really tasty. So I might try doing a batch with that this year, along with the pineapple. And then also consider salsas. So if you make your own homemade salsa, whether it be a salsa verde, which I have a video on, and I think I do have a video on like a tomato salsa, you can throw, I would say cutting it up small, just like this, and you can put that fresh into your salsa. And when you go to make it, and then just can it all together. So it's one way you can add it to anything that you're going to can. And the same would go with anything else that you like to can up, whether it be homemade soups, any kind of sauce. Just throw some of that zucchini in there to get the nutrition and to also help get you use it up to add more to that stuff. And it adds more bulk in that way too. And then just can it up, and you've got more zucchini in there, just in another form that your family might not even notice is in there. Just like when I add it to my sauces and gravies and so on, it's usually not even noticeable. So let's say you're making turkey or chicken a la king, throw it into that sauce when you're cooking it. Maybe you're doing Thanksgiving dinner and you're making the regular brown gravy out of the drippings. Throw some of the zucchini in there, this in there too. Or even consider using the zucchini powder as a thickener for your gravies. I haven't tried that. I haven't even thought of it till just now, but that could possibly work good. A lot of things that are dehydrated can thicken your soups and sauces, and it doesn't have to be some kind of starch. It doesn't have to be a flour or a tapioca starch or cornstarch or anything like that. It can just be simply foods that you've dehydrated and powdered and then throw them in there. So some people will do that with their daylily flours. They'll dehydrate them up, powder them up, and use them to thicken sauces and soups. So again, this is just about ways that you can preserve. Don't forget to check out my list of the many ways you can use zucchini, and I'll be putting down below, and also the many comments I know that people are going to be putting down below on many other ways that you can use zucchini. And by the way, I forgot to say this right at the beginning. I know for some of you this might be too late in the year. I'm going to be bumping some other videos out so I can get this out as soon as possible, but it's even later than usual anyway because my zucchini was 6 weeks behind and I only just really started getting a bunch coming in. And the fact that I always have 3 weeks worth of videos ready to publish at any given time. But sometimes I will, like I'm going to do this time, rearrange a few things so I can at least bump it ahead a couple weeks so you don't have to wait so long. So anyway, if your zucchini's already all done because you're not as far behind as we were this year, at least you have something you can refer back to for next year. Alright, well I hope you enjoyed this video and got some new fresh ideas of what to do with all that zucchini, whether it be for this year or the following years to come. And thanks for watching, take care, and God bless.